Okay, I'm riding this trail through here, and this is a huge patch of laurel. I've been following this patch of laurel for probably about 5 minutes now. So it is big, and it crosses the road on both sides. In fact, in some ways, you probably could climb one of these trees right on this road and kill deer using this road to travel through this laurel patch. In fact, it may not even be a bad idea. But to show you is that as I go to the back side of this laurel, as it starts to end, we should be able to pick up some trails from deer staying on the edges. Really, any break in this mountain laurel is a place the deer could walk, and probably will. Okay, I talked about a second ago about we rode this trail back here. Let's get in the frame. Where you at? There you are. We rode this trail here, and you see all the laurel through there. We came through it, and we actually got to where it ends. You can see the edge. This very nice, very easy to see transition line between the open hardwoods and this laurel. I'm just standing here, things that I can identify or that I would like to check out. This laurel edge right here, it comes out and there's a corner right there. Right around that corner there could be some bedding overlooking this bottom. You also see how this corner here, and there's another little patch of laurel over there. It kind of comes, and the gap between that laurel and this laurel is probably 40 yards, 30, 40 yards wide. So deer coming through this area will probably funnel through that gap. They may cut the corner a little bit, but basically within that 40-yard gap there, you should see some travel. Also, we talked about how those deer were probably not going to climb this hill until this laurel patch ended. Well, let's check this out. We are on this trail right here. As we said, we have the laurel edge here. And look what we got. Here's a laurel right here. And look what we got right at the edge of it. And there's your trail right there. It's a very well established trail climbing this hill. Looks like it wraps up top there. Goes out through across the top of that point. I don't know if you can see it. My bike is right there. The trail wraps around this point here. Now laurel edge we just discussed is down there. And this trail comes right up through here. And as I got up on this point, you can see it kind of just continues to look good in that the trail comes around this piece of laurel and then goes right up through there. Right up through there, I see a rub up there right on this edge. And I haven't looked yet, but I would not be surprised if just in this little knob right here, this little point of laurel just above that valley, the access trail, and this other open hardwood section here, this little hump here, most likely's got a couple beds on it, because any deer that would be in this area trying to keep safe could get up on this hill, and again, this would be east or southeast winds coming off this point, blowing that way, but he can overlook everything below him and stay safe. Let's go check for some beds quick. Right here we go. Right here. And actually, it's pretty fresh. There's a bed right here. Leaves are matted down in there. Actually, it's kicked up through there. Probably when I came up that hill, I might have pushed something off this knob that way. I don't know. The wind's out of the south today, so the southeast is probably the best setup for bedding here, but that south might still be okay for them. So I'm going to pin this bed right here on this point. Again, the valley below, that good trail we saw came up over this knob and dumped out right here. We got this good trail coming down off the rest of the point this way. There's a trail that runs through the valley on the other side of this little patch down through that valley and actually drops off considerably over there to a creek, probably about a couple hundred feet below. And you got this nice bed right here. I'm starting to try to figure out or think about how I could hunt this spot. Like I said, this would be for east type winds, maybe southeast, slightly south winds. So I'm trying to think about how I could get in here. This is looking south, so the direction I came is from the south. This deer is bedded, would be bedded right here, like in the evening, for instance. So if I was to try to come in here in the evening on a south wind, he's probably smelling me before I even get to this area. So that may not be the time to get in here. You could say, well, let's hunt it on a north wind so he can't smell you. Well, then he's not going to want to bed there because he doesn't have that advantage of the wind to bed in that spot. So remember, he's going to be there on the south-southeast wind based on what we found from scouting up there and the way that bed lays out. So with that in mind, I could come in the other direction here from the other side, which is a heck of a lot longer ride. Or what I could do is, the trail back there makes a pretty hard bend and actually goes to the west. It wraps way out, almost 90 degrees to a point over there. 90 degrees to this part here. And that's only probably from me to that part of the trail is maybe 250 yards. So what I could do is I could come in here on a south wind and get on that laurel edge right over there, which he probably can't see me. There's a little hump there. If I come in on the backside of that hump and get up in a tree over there and cover that laurel edge, there's a possibility when he comes out of that bed, he'll hit this laurel edge going down to this valley here to feed or look for does or whatever. I mean, there's rubs through there, so a buck has done it at one point. Him, I'm not sure. But that might be a pretty good chance for an opportunity to kill that deer. Again, he would be here on that south or east type wind. Me being over there, even if there's a south wind, it's blowing across this valley and he wouldn't be smelling me. That might be the ticket. It's probably what I'll try. So I'll go over there and pin a tree and we'll see how it works out maybe this fall. And this is what I was hoping to find. You see my bike parked up there, probably 60 yards away. And you can see this is pretty open hardwoods here. That bed, based on, I used Onyx and line distance to see how far it was from that bed to where I'm at now. It's 130 yards. You'll see there's a hump right here. This terrain, and also got a laurel thicket right here. This laurel thicket is the same laurel thicket that we looked at on the other side. So, and actually you can see right here is a really good trail. And it goes right over toward that bed, 120 yards away. So what I could do is I come in, I wouldn't park my bike right there. I feel like the bike kind of has a smell associated with it. So here's this trail coming through. I could walk in here in this open hardwoods, and I could get in one of these trees. Now remember, south wind or east wind, that's this way, that's east. This is south toward the camera. So wind's blowing this direction here, that way. So even these trails here, I don't want to be on this side of them, they'll smell me. So I get on this side of these trails, so I'm looking over this side. I don't want to go too far over this hill or even too high up a tree because I run a risk of that deer in that bed over there seeing me. He's that way, so he's basically east of me. So he shouldn't be able to smell me. So I'm actually looking at maybe this pine here, or I'm sorry, this birch tree with this pine. Maybe getting up into that, just on this side of it where the top of that tree is. That's about 15 feet. Even some other ones kind of, I don't want to go too, like I said, I don't want to go that way. There's some decent looking trees up there, but I don't want to get in the spot where that deer can see me. So I'm looking for other trees. Even some of these birch right here might be okay, but that trail is only 8 yards from there. I don't like those close shots. I have to pull off it a little bit and drop down to that maple down there. This birch tree here has got, I'm not sure what kind of tree this is, but has got another tree growing next to it. It's right here, it's 10 yards to that trail, that good trail. And it's going to be 120, 130 yards from that bed. If I stay right around that limb there, I shouldn't be able to be seen from that bed over there, and that may just work out. So I'm going to bring up on X. I'm going to pin this tree here. I like this one best. I feel like it's the most conservative option, at least initially. If it works out, cool. If I see the deer maybe staying over there or cutting the corner from this laurel thicket to that one along this point, which is very possible, and that may be a shot I could take. It's about 40 yards to that point. But if I can't take it, if it's a little too far, I can shift the next time to that pine we talked, or that birch by the pine. That gives me another about 20 yards closer to the that point, and maybe that shot opportunity. So just dissecting these spots. And right there, it's not a very big rub, but there's a rub on that pine. You can see it's missing some limbs. There's this sign in here. It looks good. I'm walking back to the bike here now from a different area. And I came across, it's kind of hard to pick up, but it's here. It's a pretty good trail. And just to reiterate, any break in this laurel is big laurel patch here, laurel over here, and some more out that way. Any of these little breaks in this laurel have the potential to channel deer, and as this trail indicates, that's what's happening right here. That heavy trail goes back into that laurel patch. You will find sometimes these trails go into the laurel patch and kind of fan out and just disappear. I presume that means this deer are kind of getting there to bed at different locations, different distances into the laurel. And as I said before, I'd avoid going after those deer because they're going to just make too much noise. I'd pull back a little bit, find where those trails kind of reconverge, you know, before they fanned out, and set up on that kind of sign. Yes, it's a little more conservative, and maybe there's a time and a place to dive deeper into that laurel, especially if you have a gun, for instance, and a little, you know, a tree stand and a gun, you can cover more ground, see a little further. But if you're talking archery and you know, the close shots, I'd play it back a hair and stay on these edges. I'm kind of hiking this other area back to my bike again, and I just want to take a second to show you what rhododendron is. This is rhododendron, darker green stuff here. There's some right here beside me. The leaves kind of like a waxy look to them. You find this a lot of times in the more shaded areas, like along creeks. You can hear a creek in the background here. If you look, it's kind of like mountain laurel on steroids almost. It's kind of has the same, like the way it's made up. It's just a lot higher, a lot bigger in a lot of cases. This stuff here is probably pushing 20 feet high. And you can see whereas the mountain laurel was maybe at best maybe an inch or so in diameter, the trunks or whatever of this bush right there are probably 4 inches, 3.5, 4 inches diameter. It does kind of make almost like a cave feel underneath it. Some places it's almost like a tunnel, and you will find deer bed up underneath this stuff in a lot of places, especially if you got a patch of thick laurel and then rhododendron patches near or around it. Those deer will kind of get up under that rhododendron to bed. I have found deer tucked up under a rhododendron at tops of mountains overlooking, like right near the top of a mountain overlooking like the valley below. Because rhododendron likes more shaded areas, you often find it on north-facing slopes or in valleys like this creek bottom where I'm at now. And yeah, this is some more rhododendron here. You can see it's mixed in with pines. We're in some hemlock here and rhododendron. So this is again something you see here in Pennsylvania and other parts of the Northeast that really differentiates this area from other places where you might hunt whitetails. Here's some more rhododendron. This is a bigger patch here. I'm climbing this mountain, this pretty steep hillside. It's all growing north-facing slope here. You see it's a pretty tangled mess. Looking up through it, I kind of hear it maybe within the 1 to 3 foot height. It isn't too bad, but for the average adult, you can't stand up in this. You got to either crawl or kind of stay slouched over. And if you're looking at some of these bigger patches, it can be really a pain in the neck. I want to move again. Something I wanted to show you real quick. I touched on rhododendron a little bit ago. You know, how deer look for breaks in the laurel to get through, and also how they like to bed under rhododendron. I'm at a spot right now. I'm at a spot right now that I actually jumped some deer out last year, and I believe the one deer I jumped out was a really nice buck coming out on this one trail. So let's have a look at it here real quick. What you're going to see is there's a break in the laurel. There's a couple good trails that kind of utilize that break to work their way down off this ridge, down to the valley below. I'm near the top of a ridge, and the valley below I'm talking about is probably maybe 300-400 feet elevation difference from top to the bottom, and it's actually a bunch of streams down there. This rhododendron that's growing right here actually is in where the headwater of one of the springs or whatever that feed that creek. That's why that rhododendron's here. It's north facing, but it's also damp in that area, which seems to attract the rhododendron to grow or whatever. So let's have a look at this. I'll try to find the bed where that buck was laying. I'm not sure if there's actually a bed there or if just that particular day he laid down there. So we'll have a look here real quick. You can see here's the mountain laurel. All this is all laurel here, really thick. And again, walking through that way would be a mess. But we come across here, and we got a break in the laurel right here. See how it breaks here? And you can see, here's what I was talking about. There's a rhododendron patch. There's a rhododendron patch. And you see how the laurel's maybe somewhere between 2 to 5 feet tall, where that rhododendron's, you know, pushing 20 feet at its highest point, maybe 15, 20 feet. But there's a trail right here, kind of goes right through this, at this break. And you can kind of follow the break in the laurel. And like I said, this rhododendron patch here is actually the headwaters of one of those streams in the valley below. I have used streams that kind of, like the rhododendron, those streams, they make a break in the laurel. I've used those to go up and down mountains in this area because the laurel doesn't grow down in the creek itself. It's kind of open with the rhododendron growing above it. So you can use those patches of rhododendron in streams to kind of get up into these laurel patches. I'm walking a faint deer trail here. It's kind of hard to see, but I can see through there a little better. You see what I mean? How under this rhododendron patch, it's like a little tunnel or cave, so to speak. Got this thick green above, the thick laurel here around. But you can see underneath these rhododendron patches, these little pockets. And that's where you'll find some bedding a lot of times, especially if it has a spot where they can see well. And look, like I was saying earlier, what we got going on right here. We have acorns already starting to fall here in Pennsylvania. And a deer could lay here and really just feed from the bed if it wanted to. And if you were set up even 100 yards from them, you may not see that deer till after dark. If you look through here, you can kind of see there's more rhododendron over there. Again, it's like a cave or a tunnel. It's pretty neat stuff. Like I said, it's that the distance between the ground and the lower limbs of that is maybe 3 feet. So it's tough to get through for us, but the deer can get through really easily. And they'll tuck into these patches and lay down. That buck I jumped, I believe, was right over in there that day. So let's go over and have a look at that, see if we can find a bed. Actually, right here's a bed. Right here is a bed under this rhododendron bush. And there's acorns already dropping a lot. But look at this. The hiking trail is only about 35, 40 yards that way. I think I might be able to see it through there. So a deer could tuck in underneath this and be safe. No one's seeing them, and no one's getting them with any, easily anyway. Okay, here's a bed, right here. It's on the uphill side of this rhododendron bush. I came through there. The trail is 50 yards or so now above me. And this may have been the bed that deer jumped out of, I'm not sure. Here's his bed right here, or I would say his, I'm not 100% sure it's a buck. It sets up pretty well for one. You got an exit trail coming right through here, right over to it. Matted down real nice. It's good size too, from that end to my foot, which is on this side here, probably about 4 feet, maybe a hair less, 3.5 feet. You can kind of see the outline of it. It's hard to see in the camera. It's kind of got like a peanut shape to it, looking downhill. And it's under this rhododendron here. So this is big woods bedding in a rhododendron patch, surrounded by mountain laurel. And the exit trail kind of follows the rhododendron. And I know from aerials and even topos that stream kind of pops out of this hillside, you know, the spring or whatever, down through here. So they probably picked their way through that break in the laurel down over the hill towards some little more open hardwoods that I know are below.